Deputy Chief Sean Riley is committed to 21st century policing and serving all residents of Framingham. He has 29 years of law enforcement experience, and he joined the Framingham Police Department in 2001, became a detective in 2005, a sergeant in 2015, and a lieutenant in 2018. He has demonstrated a history of working in the government administration. He's an experienced collaborator with outside agencies, creating and implementing programs with public safety and community building as the ultimate goal. He's also skilled in law enforcement, I would hope so, community engagement and outreach, patrol training, community outreach, hiring, and recruiting. Building trust between public and the police is his ultimate goal to maintain safe communities. Do okay? Pretty good. Okay. Police Chief Lester Baker has served as Framingham's Chief of Police since late 2020. He served as a deputy chief in charge of operations prior to becoming chief. Prior to that, he was a lieutenant, sergeant, patrolman. Baker transferred from the Lexington Police Department as a patrolman back in 2003, where he had worked since 1996. Early this year, Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey appointed Chief Baker to the Massachusetts Peace Officer Standards and Training Commission. The Post Commission was established as part of the criminal justice reform in 2020 after the murder of George Floyd in Minnesota. Its mission is to improve policing and enhance public confidence in law enforcement by implementing a fair process for mandatory certification, discipline, and training for all peace officers in the Commonwealth. Was that okay? That was pretty good. Okay. Please give a warm brotherhood welcome to Chief Lester Baker and Deputy Chief Sean Riley.
Thank you for the introduction. Again, Deputy Chief Sean Riley, Framingham Police Department. The chief promoted me right after he got promoted to chief, probably about a month and a half later. So I'm very thankful to him to have the confidence to be, one of his deputy chiefs in the city of Framingham. Even though I don't live here, really is like a home to me, right? The last 22 years policing here, I live somewhere else, but, that's due to family reasons. But I would absolutely consider this city a home to me. And I will move here tomorrow once my kids get out of college. Also I'll come see you. So I just want you to know that. So I'll be celebrating my 30th year in law enforcement next Friday. That's a big milestone in my getting pretty close to the end. So thank you for having us. It was 10 years ago, almost to the day that I was here. I did a presentation when I was the housing liaison officer, when I was going back, putting this presentation together for the chief and I. So we're going to kind of tag team this. So I'll let the chief, run it from here. He'll just tell me when to flip the slides. So what we're going to do, the way I set it up, is basically a history of the police department, kind of what's going on with the PD. You'll see kind of how it flows, and then at the end, we'll get into some crime prevention tips. I think that's really, really important. So hopefully we get something out of that as well. There'll be questions and answers.
All right, the mission of the Framingham Police Department is to enhance public safety and reduce crime through the delivery of exceptional police services. Today, this is accomplished through data analysis and ongoing community outreach. And basically what that means is we use evidence-based policing. We compile our data, we look for hotspots. We don't just randomly go to areas. We high accident locations, high crime areas. And the outreach part is, I don't like the term community policing. I think you should be engaged in the community just all day long. So our goal is to get officers out of the cars, doing more community engagement, more community activities, events like this. This is the important stuff. The crime stuff's always going to be there. We can all do that. But this is important to have these relationships. So that's the biggest part of what we do in our agency. Yes, tell me about it. So basically what you have here, Chief of Police in Internal Affairs reports directly to me, along with my executive assistant, who is absolutely amazing. Anyone that has an assistant know you would be gone without them. So she is not here, but my assistant, Terry Haggerty, she's absolutely amazing. There's a deputy chief of administration that basically sees the paper side of the police department. Anything to do with administrative work, that's Deputy Chief Pereira. Executive Officer, Deputy Chief Ron Bandolini, handles a lot of our accreditation and the behind the scenes things that make the department work as well. And the Deputy Chief of Operations, who everybody knows, the hottest working man in the department, is Deputy Chief Sean Riley. Everything from patrol to detectives and everything to do on an operational basis. He is the person that gets the calls all night long, all weekend long, the holidays and everything else. And he tries to keep everything to himself. Every now and then he does ring my phone, which then makes me ring the mayor's phone. So he does handle a lot of calls for us, Mr. Mayor, that we don't get. So he does very well.
My wife loves the 3 a.m. phone calls, loves it.
So currently we have 136 sworn police officers and 20 civilian staff. We're doing very well as far as hiring. Right now we're at 130, and we have 6 officers that are going to go into the academy in December. Back in 2018, we came out of civil service. It was one of the best progressive things for the city. It started, I want to say, in 2013 that we tried to come out of civil service. It took a good 5 years for it to happen. You now have half the state trying to do what we did, 5 years ago, and they're actually being stalled right now because everybody sees that they want to leave civil service. Our pool isn't great, but we have a constant pool. And we're able to attract the best candidates. We're able to attract candidates from out of state that would have never made it into the room. We are able to attract candidates from other cities and towns. The big myth was that you won't hire veterans and you won't hire residents if you leave civil service. Well, the first thing we do when we have a non-civil service exam is we put Framingham residents at the top. And to be quite blunt, when it comes to veterans are still the prospective officers that are coming out in droves to take this job. 5 of our 6 candidates that were sent into the academy in December are veterans of the armed services. So that's a bit that's put out there about the non-civil service, and it's worked out great for us.
If I could just add to the hiring piece, because we'll talk a little bit more about this. Believe it or not, one of the frustrating things that we see is the lack of Framingham residents actually taking the exam. Which is, I don't understand where that's coming from. A city of 72,000 people, I think we had a total of only 7, unfortunately, that passed the last test. So that is something that we're really, trying to push, to have, the men and women of the city, step up and take a role, because I think it's super, super important for them to take this job. It's more so now than ever. So that's something that we're struggling to see, where years ago, I remember when I first took the exam, I was not a resident of the city of Framingham at the time, in the town of Framingham. And I was like 700, just because I wasn't a resident. So, just keep that in mind, to help us recruit, your grandkids, et cetera, your kids, let them know that we're looking for people, and we're always giving them an exam.
It might pop up with the slide, it might be jumping ahead, but what we're doing now, we run an academy. So we second or third academy, we just said.
That was the
third. So we run our third youth academy, and this is where it starts. These efforts aren't going to be seen tomorrow. These efforts are going to come to fruition when Deputy Chief Riley and I are gone. Our goal is to get this youth academy going every year, which we seem to be doing. You then take those freshmen to high school age children and encourage them to be cadets and bring them in the city that way. Keep them engaged in the police department. So that way you just have a constant flow of people that since high school through college, now they're working their way right through the police department. And that way we won't have to worry about tests. We won't have to worry about recruiting. And you're going to get people from the city, from the neighborhoods that want to take on this job and be the next generation of police officers.
Certain programs that we have within the city, and there's a whole bunch of them. We have the Police Athletic League. We have the Read Aloud program where we go into the schools, and the kids really love that. And I think it's important because we want the youth to know that, we are just normal, everyday folks. We do a lot of symposiums, talks like this. I'm going to just tell you a brief story. The chief and I were at one probably about 7 or 8 months ago at Greater Framingham Community Church, if I remember correctly. And, as you can see, we're in uniform today. And one of the young gentlemen there, said, it'd be nice to see you guys every once in a while looking like us, and and it's funny because I take great pride in this uniform and what I do. And when I'm in the city, I am a sworn law enforcement officer here. So if something happens, I need to be able to respond. So, but we took that to heart, and the two of us are very uniform type folks. And, so sometimes you will start to see us at certain events. I know the mayor has seen us at events where we're dressed down. And I think that's it's very strategic for that, to let folks know that we are just normal human beings with family at home. And, we're not always in that kind of military look. So a lot of these programs, believe it or not, we get some great ideas out of, and hopefully we impart what we do to our folks. And hopefully, there isn't that us versus them mentality. It's not a divide. So all of these programs we do are super important.
Some new programs that are now part of the Framingham Police Department, Community Impact Unit. This is very new. So the Community Impact Unit goes off that evidence-based data. This unit will address quality of life issues, crime, outreach. We'll use the downtown area, for example. Obviously, we have a homeless population. We have drug addiction. This unit is gonna go down there or anywhere throughout the city and address those issues. And when I say address those issues, I always start this off where 50% of the room's gonna hate me and 50% of the room's gonna love me. And then when I go to the other side of it, it will flip. So part of that engagement will be, we're gonna go down there and enforce the law. I firmly believe that people deserve a second chance. I think you should help people in their worst times. But if you keep slapping the hand that's trying to help you, and you're gonna make life tough for residents, tough for those that travel through the city, tough for business owners, then you need to be held accountable. So this unit, and I'll just sum it up, may go down on a Monday and get everybody and try to do outreach, get you to where you need to be, get you to a clinic, get you to a clinician, get you to detox, get you shelter. But if Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, you're still wreaking havoc and you're committing crimes, we're gonna have to arrest you. We're gonna have to bring you to court. And on Friday, if we have to offer you help again, we will. But it has to be twofold. It has to be two-pronged. And that's what this unit will do. And a big issue with these situations is the quality of life issues. We work closely with the mayor and all the other departments, things like lighting, trash pickup, just anything. It could even be something to do with traffic or road engineering. We will work with the other departments as well, using the police department as a liaison. I laugh when I think back to 2018 and all the social unrest where everyone said, do not call the police. We don't want the police to do anything. I can tell you right now, people call us for everything. Even the social services that hate us, if you call them today, you will get a recording that says to call us. So we embrace that. We know not everything's a police issue, but we are going to work hard to at least try to solve it, because we are the ones that are always here. We are always the ones that pick up the phone.
Obviously, our K9 program as well. One of our the sergeant who runs the unit actually lives right across the street. So K9s are incredibly important. You have Officer Mangano and K9 ISCO. They are dual purpose that you see here on the the screen. They're patrol dogs. They go out there to catch felons. They can track missing people, but this dog also can do narcotics work. We have 3 other dogs that are, 2 of the other 3 are dual purpose as well, patrol, where they can go out there and actually track. And they are also EOD gun dogs as well. So we have a robust canine unit. They've been very, very active within the city. They help, and they're a force multiplier for us out there. And they've helped. Matter of fact, Sudbury was lucky enough to have one of our dogs go up there and find a missing, I think it was an Alzheimer's patient, about 2 weeks ago. So, not only does it assist the city of Framingham and the residents here, but it also assists our partnering agencies as well when they need something really quick. So we're very proud of the K9 unit, great group of officers and canines within the unit.
In FY23, we welcomed 7 new officers and saw 1 officer go out on military leave. That's actually increased since then. We like I said, the officers in the military, we have an officer now that's deployed stateside. We have another officer that was just recently deployed with the new state of emergency. We have an officer that's been deployed over 3 years now outside of the country.
His third year. We're lucky enough to have a talented officer who's an EOD tech with the military, but when you're an EOD tech, it's a very limited MOS. So he's been held with the military for 2 years. He's getting his third year deployment right now. So unfortunately for us, we've lost him. But we do have one officer that's been on deployment for the last 9 months coming back. I believe she actually starts tomorrow. She's back tomorrow.
So one retiree not included in these numbers is K9 Cam. Cam was with us, I'm not sure how many years, but 9 years. Cam was a single purpose narcotics K9 that was actually found in the woods down in Plymouth. And he was rescued, and the Plymouth County Sheriff down towards the Cape took him in. We ended up receiving the dog for free, and he served us for 9 years, involved in some very big narcotic seizures. He has since retired. The two of our newest K9s, Murph and Bergie. K9 Murph was actually donated to us by the Quincy Police Department. They had one of their had a sick child and could no longer take on the job. They did not have anybody at the time that they could give the dog to. Our officer that was in the K9 school at the time was having a tough time with the K9 that he currently was working. So they thought it would be a good fit, and it has been. And K9 Murph is now part of the, it's almost like a lateral transfer for a dog from the Quincy Police Department to us. And K9 Bergie there is, I believe he's the youngest, very young, but a great dog. And he is with Officer Boomer, and he has recently graduated from the Boston Police K9 Academy. They do have to get certified. Funny story is our first, when we kind of revamped the K9 unit, we were very excited. I was very excited. We took a picture of Officer Matt Mangano, who you saw on the first slide. He started out with K9 Alvin. Well, obviously Alvin didn't graduate. So yes, so his first dog was a Malinois named Alvin. And we were excited. We blasted it out on social media. And then we posted his graduation of him and K9 Isco. Not a lot of people picked it up. But I learned very quickly, you don't post until they graduate. So.
And the ongoing joke, as we laughed at Alvin, was we were going to have Simon and Theodore after that. That completely ruined that show.
So we started to talk about the community impact unit. We won't go any further into depth. I'm guessing we'll probably have some questions about that. But I think it's important to thank, because he's in the room, is the mayor in the city, because he really helped green light this. And that is incredibly important when it comes to our side of the house. We needed that support, and he wholeheartedly gave it. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for doing that. That's going to help. Just to stay on the community impact unit just a little bit more, only because it's been something that, since I was the housing liaison officer, it's been something that I've always wanted to see come to fruition here in the city. These officers are going to be dealing with a lot of quality of life issues throughout the city, wherever we decide to go, but they're going to start in the downtown area. And their job is to not only deal with the people, but the place as well, and really coordinate. You know, a vibrant downtown is great for all of us. So, you know, even dealing with community economic development, right? And Saki and his team, you know, making sure that, you know, lighting and talking to the business owners. I want them down at the commuter rail station in the morning, talking to commuters. You know, why do you come downtown? And more importantly, why don't you come downtown? Why are you not using downtown? And keep asking the why. Let's get to the root of the issue. Now, a lot of it may not be police related issues, right? They may be something else, but our officers hopefully will take that information and then pass it along as a team partnership to other, you know, agencies within the city, whether it's, you know, across at City Hall or, private entities, working maybe collaboratively with Downtown Framingham Inc., and Riyadh and his team, just to, really work to improve that area for everybody to enjoy. So that is really the ultimate goal of this unit. Again, it talks about the vulnerable populations. That's what we're dealing with downtown. And it's going to be a dual approach. Enforcement is needed. That's just the reality. Enforcement has to be, people have to be held responsible for what they do. But at the same time, we're willing to assist and get them the help that they need. We really do want that. We want people to turn their life around. I started my career off in a prison environment, and it was like a rotating door. People doing life on the installment plan. And that's not good for any of us. We're really going to be putting a lot of time and effort into this. This unit is fully operational starting next Tuesday, I think it is. The sergeant and the team were just all formed, and they'll be going live, I think, October 11th. They'll be out on the street. How are we going to implement this? Again, ask why, right? Don't just ask the why once, why something happened. Keep asking until you really dig down. A lot of times, we're proactively out there on the street, the officers on the shift, but they get called away a lot to calls for service. So they're able to walk around and be visible, but this unit, this is going to be their primary mission. So they're going to be able to deal with these issues, for 8 hours a day. And they're going to be working just sort of 5 on, 3 off schedule. As we all know, issues occur 7 days a week. So there'll be weeks where they're off Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but they'll be around on Saturdays and Sundays. So you'll have the 5 on, 3 off schedule, primarily working days, but they're also aware that they have to be available, at all times of the day and night, depending on when the issues are. And the team that we compiled, I think, is going to be able to handle that. The SARA model, scanning, analysis, response, and assessment. Those of you folks that haven't heard of that, it's really important, and we want them to kind of use that as their, core, what is really going on. I want them to get downtown and find out what is actually happening, scan it, really figure it out, analyze what's going on, right? Figure it out. And this is not only, the folks that we deal with day in and day out, but I want them to know those business owners inside and out, the residents that live within that downtown area, the same thing. What are the issues they're seeing? What we see or what we think as a group may be totally different than what the person that's actually living and working there may see. So we want to get that feedback. Who's commuting through downtown? What are they seeing? And then create a good response to that problem or problems, whatever that case may be. And if there's something that's working, I know we talk a lot of times as police officers, problems, but if there's something really good happening, well, let's continue to do that. Maybe let's bolster the good, and maybe it just drowns out the problem sometimes, right? So we got to look at it both ways and then assess what we're doing and be willing to move. If things aren't working, that's okay. That is okay. If something that we tried didn't work, well, not a big deal. Let's just reassess and let's try to move it in a different direction. Eventually, we're going to find, the solution. So again, community policing through environmental design, we touched on that, not necessarily that term, but the CEPTED principle is, very, very important. I've been lucky enough to be trained in this, where lighting, the way that you set up your space really makes a difference. How we place trash barrels downtown or anywhere in the city, right? Studies have shown people will only walk so far. And then if there's not a trash receptacle, what do? They drop it. Right? Walt Disney's an expert on that. That's how, if you've ever been to Disney, right? There's trash barrels like every 30 feet. So just keep that in mind, sights, smells, how, the windows in the businesses, can they see out and can we see in? That's all CEPTED type principles. So those are the things that I want these officers downtown to be looking at, really, the stuff that, the everyday officer might not be able to spend a lot of time on. These officers, we want them to spend time on and really dig deep into find the solutions. We talked about, the chief touched on this, working with the various departments. Again, using data. I mean, we have a really good idea of what our stats say downtown or anywhere in the city for that matter, right? Our crime analyst, Megan, is fantastic. So we can get that, and we know where the hot spots are within the patrol areas throughout the whole city for that matter. So what we also want to try to do is, and we're looking into this week, is getting actual like survey type. What's the actual vibe on the street feel? In so we can measure that progress as well. How do you feel today when this unit started? Do you feel safe? Do you not feel safe? What are the issues? Is it lighting, signage, whatever the case may be? And then hopefully we can readdress that in 6 months, a year, and see, hey, are we making the right progress?
Framingham Police Department's goal is to have more police officers on the street, making connections with residents, owners, becoming a part of the community, helping to deter crime before it even happens. Hiring more police officers allows the department to engage in community policing and proactive strategies, such as concentrate more police officers in the area with high crime. And the National Academy of Sciences note that have been shown high quality experiment research to reduce crime. In addition to expanding traditional pathways like internships and partnerships with criminal justice programs, departments can begin to look at non-traditional disciplines such as foreign language programs, technology-centric schools, and hospitality or management programs that offer potential recruits with skills needed to better relations with communities, improve analytics, and foster a culture of customer service. Successful recruitment in law enforcement today is possible, but requires effort, experimentation, and commitment to continuous improvement and approaches. That just goes to what I was speaking about earlier, the cadet program. And again, we need to thank the mayor for this. Years ago, we were losing officers to smaller communities because you could go basically do half the call volume and make more money. I have worked with the mayor's office, and my way of thinking is you need to make the Framingham Police Department a destination department. Deputy Chief Riley and he touched upon it. When I first took my first civil service exam, I was over 800 for every department I applied for, simply because I was not a veteran. And if you weren't in your own city or town, you just popped up and the number was over 800. I actually went to California to join the Highway Patrol, which I was successful at doing. And then they told me to be assigned to Bakersfield, California, which is basically the desert. And I knew nobody there. And I got to admit, I got cold feet and said, I'm going to wait until I get hired back here in Massachusetts. So that's what we were dealing with. Now, we had, I want to say 3 or 4 candidates in the room recently for interviews, great interviews, and we offered them a job on the spot. And they said that we'll get back to you. I have 3 or 4 other offers. That was unheard of. That just did not happen. So this city needs to be a destination spot for when it comes to attracting police candidates. And you do that not just with pay, but with opportunity. Both of us were driven here by opportunity. And I think we did all right. What do you think?
I'm happy.
Yeah, we did all right. So the K9 units, the size of the department, the room for growth, the different avenues that you can get into, we need that to attract people here. And obviously pay is a big issue. Touched upon this, the Youth Academy, it's in its third cycle. We will be, if you're interested, we are signing up people now.
Yeah, so we did post for a Citizens Police Academy. Our goal was to have that go live, I think, started this month. But I think we only had 4 people sign up as of the other day. So that may actually get pushed until probably after the holidays, probably in January. I mean, not that we don't want to run it for 4 people, but I'd like to have at least 24 people in the room. So I think we're going to keep it open, and it's probably going to get postponed until January for a Citizens Academy for adults, which will be great.
And if you've seen the Youth Academy, it's not like that for the adults. We're not going to line you up, scream at you, make you run a mile and a half on day one. The Citizens Academy basically brings you into the police department, and we give you a behind the scenes workings of the police department. We'll go through all the different divisions. It's funny because I often get asked for K9 demonstrations. I don't just randomly do K9 demonstrations. I do it for the Youth Academy, and I'll do it for the Citizens Academy. So we want you to see everything that we go through. We want to give you behind the scenes, and it just basically lets you know what your police department does. A lot of people leave there with their eyes wide open. I often hear, I didn't know you did that. I didn't know you dealt with that. I can't believe you had to deal with this. It's a great opportunity to get to know your inner workings of your police department. The city of Framingham Police Department is not alone in its desire to hire a more diverse group of officers. In fact, a similar need exists across the country. You heard the term that your police department should reflect the city you served. We strive for that. And I'll be very blunt once again. Everybody looks at me and says, that's what you need to do, right? Well, our closest numbers are our Black officers. Where we struggle is with the Asian officers. We need to hire more Asian officers to reflect the community we serve because we are grossly lacking there.
There's a couple of videos embedded in this presentation just to kind of show you what we're doing for some recruitment tools.
We're looking for you. We're looking for you.
Tôi chim bạn.
Napsha Show. Vim trabalhar, velho.
Estamos procurando você.
Nosotros te estamos buscando.
We're looking for you.
That's right. We're looking for you to join our team. See where a career in law enforcement can take you.
So the recruiting is a big deal. I mean, we have agencies from all over the country that come into Massachusetts to recruit, especially some of your bigger agencies like your LAPDs, your CHP, NYPD. You know, they have recruitment divisions that are getting out there all over the country. So obviously we don't have that ability to do that, but it's a big deal. And the best recruiting tool, honestly, is the men and women that work for us every day. So this slide just shows a little bit of, where we stand in percentage to, the population of the city. So these are numbers that, even pre-George Floyd, I think it's important that you understand that your police department was not looking at this stuff as a result of something that happened. We were proactively looking at numbers like this well before George Floyd. To make sure that our agency does look like the community that we serve. So these numbers just, and I'm not going to go through each one, death by PowerPoint, right? But we really do keep an eye out on this. We update it at least once a year. I go in and I look to see where we are as far as, our racial makeup goes within our police department as compared to the city numbers. Again, these are just some Census Bureau numbers that talks about, where the largest increase in population was among Latinos, 9,161 to 12,071. And again, the Asian population is getting larger as well. Recent data from the Foundation of Metro West, with small but fast-growing minority population report marks a distinct 12.4% increase in overall population with an 18% increase in foreign-born residents. This probably isn't a surprise to anyone in the room. Lexington, Framingham, and Westboro, again, has very big populations that are increasing every day. So those, again, just some numbers. And again, we're looking at this stuff all the time. Language is another diversity issue within the community. Not only do we have to look like one another, but do we speak the language? I think which probably sometimes is more important, than it actually how you look. If you can speak someone's language, I think that really breaks down a barrier immediately when you're talking to someone. We had, I think it was last night alone, we had 911 calls. I think it was a total of 4 calls. We actually had to use the language line to help, for interpretation services. So we knew exactly what the person was calling on. So, language is a big skill that if I could encourage anyone, especially a younger population, is to start to learn a second language, especially if you're in this area. Portuguese, huge. Even some of your Asian languages, Mandarin, etc., really, really big.
And what's upsetting about that, we get a monthly report, not a monthly report, a nightly report from every shift commander. And one of the comments was those 4 calls, but the amount of time that the state 911 translation line took, one of those calls took 8 minutes to get translation. I have been probably too vocal about this, Deputy Chief.
Yep.
He usually kicks me under the table and tells me to stop, but I find that upsetting that if you call 911, it took 8 minutes for us to get a translator on the line. Now, thank God, those calls were non-emergent, but if that was emergent and it took 8 minutes to figure out what's going on, that could be life or death. So we are in the process of, providing all our officers with forms of Google Translation and things like that, just so simply we can try to get through until we do actually get, translation there. But it's a serious issue.
This slide, just again, we track data points within the police department to see where we stand. And obviously this is, coming up on a year at this point, but this is pretty accurate numbers. These don't move that much, believe it or not. I wish they would move a little bit more. But that's the officers that we have speaking various languages within the city and within our police department. So 17% of the 129 sworn officers speak at least one other language. As you notice, Julie Volk tends to be in every one of our videos here.
O Departamento de Polícia de Framingham vem aqui comunicar que o ano letivo ha começado. Dirigem com cuidado.
La police de Framingham, l'effort changer, l'école ouvrir. S'il vous plaît, conduisez doucement.
Cảnh sát Framingham muốn mới dậy biết là trường mở cửa rồi, lái xe cẩn thận.
El Departamento de Policía de Framingham quisiera recordarle que la escuela está en sesión. Conduce con cuidado. Gracias.
The Framingham Police Department would like to remind you, school's in session. Drive safely.
Years ago, what would we do? They do strictly in English, right? And we're really, not allowing the other parts of our community access to what we're actually saying. So I think, again, sometimes we're slow to, get on the train. I don't think it's anything, we mean harm by it. I just think we kind of just do things as normal, right? So we've been trying to get on top of that at the police department the last couple of years. And really, when we do put out messaging, try to do it in various languages.
I think this is a big one for us. Adult sign language. We definitely, even if we have to have a few officers go out and be trained, we have a great relationship with the School for the Deaf, but this is something where we struggle as well, adult sign language.
Again, it just talks about more just language. Things that we're looking at, I think it's important for you to know that we're look at the schools, right? What type of languages are being spoken there? That's probably the most accurate, probably, data. 75 different languages spoken in Framingham Public Schools. That's amazing. It's just a pie breakout at exactly the percentage of languages that are being spoken within the schools. Again, reflecting the community, gender is another big thing. The city is about 50-50 split, male, female. And as of September, I looked at this last night just to make sure we're at 16. So 13% of our police department is female. And that does not include the female officer that is in the academy right now, because it specifically said sworn. So we have one coming out in the police academy January 3rd. She graduates. And we're constantly recruiting for females. You'll notice there's that campaign out there, 30 for 30. If you haven't seen it, 30% of the police department being females by 2030. We haven't signed on to that. We're always trying to push for that. I mean, and that's a tough number to get to, but we're always pushing. We're actually really good when you come percentage-wise as far as the percentage of officers in our department. We're pushing close to 20%. That's a really good number.
But we'll always want to do better.
Yes. Again, reflecting the age. This one you'll laugh at. It's hard to reflect the age because at a certain point, you might be too old to get on the job. But the reality is our population is getting older. It is. That's, it's a very fast growing population. And what you'll see these slides will say is, officers needing to understand the population. So we're not going to be able to hire, I apologize to 70-year-olds to the police. But we want our officers to know what are the issues that our older population are facing, right? Like my parents are pushing 80. What are the issues that they're seeing?
right? And it's important, for the officers, our younger officers to know, what's going on out there with our elder population. Just some stats again, how large the population, 55 and over, is getting. And listen, I'm going to be 55 pretty soon. That's which is crazy, but I'm going to be jumping into that community pretty soon. Yeah, it just talks about overall growth. Fastest growing population falls between the ages 60 and 84. I don't think that's probably news to anyone in the room. Nope. Again, talked about we can't necessarily have that population working with us, but to understand that population is super, super important.
So touch on the ongoing recruitment of female in all officers, recruitment of second languages, training for officers, specific needs of the senior population. I think we're going to touch on this later in the slides, but seniors are being targeted for crime, and you're being targeted for crime, not to break into your homes. You're being targeted for crimes over the phone and over the internet. I go through this with my own loved ones who actually argue with me when I say, don't click on that. And they say, but, it says this, and it says this, and it says that. And I'm like, well, if it was truly that, they wouldn't be sending it to you through Facebook. If it's too good to be true, it's probably not. And if someone's trying to get you to buy a money card and send it to them over the phone, don't do it. Don't click on it. If the world's going to end and they say it's going to end, if you don't do it, let the world end, because it's probably false. We'll touch upon that later.
Yep.
And then obviously our ongoing community policing. I hate the word community policing. I just think it's constant outreach. We should have never got away from the outreach portion of this job. Everything goes in cycles. I got on the 90s, right around Rodney King, and there was a lot of turmoil, and then we got engaged back in the community policing, and then 9/11 hit, and it got totally militarized. We don't want to deal with your problems. We're waiting for the big thing to happen. And then we cycle back to George Floyd. So things go in cycles. What you need to do is constantly remain engaged with your community. Bad things are going to happen. Can't control that. You can do your best to control it, but bad things are going to happen. But what you can control is staying engaged with your community. And that's what we strive to do here.
So the next part of the presentation is some safety tips, crime prevention tips. And we talk about just general tips in this next section, at home, at work, where we are, place of worship, that type of stuff. All right, so we're going to go through that, then we'll open up the questions. And it's everyone's responsibility, for prevention of crime. There's 129 police officers right now in the city, but there's 70,000 plus residents. If we all keep our eyes and ears out, then we can really do some great things overall, looking out for each other. And personal safety tips, always keep your car locked. Park in a well-lighted area, good visibility, keep your car keys in hand. I think a lot of people have, been teaching that, where you kind of keep that pointed end. Just God forbid, right? You need to use your keys as something, a distraction device to get away from somebody. Walk with friends and colleagues. Carry only the money you need. My mother laughs at me. She goes, "You never carry cash." She goes, "Open your wallet, maybe you have $5 in it." But it's true, because if you carry a lot of cash, my sons went up to Manchester, New Hampshire last night to see Bill Burr. I guess he's a comedian, but my son, Rowan, I love him. But man, I said, "How much cash you got in that wallet?" I says, $75. Put the rest on the table. I said, "You don't need to carry that because you come in Target. So just keep that in mind when you're out there. Only carry what you need." If you think someone's following you, again, maybe that's when you get on the phone or you switch sides of the street. Ask for help. Don't ever not ask for help. Giving your property, your life is, not worth giving up for money or goods. You can always replace that stuff. Call the police immediately. That's key, right? A lot of times we don't get the calls right away, which is unfortunate. If we got them right away, we can probably, deal with that issue pretty fast. If it doesn't feel right, your hands on the back of your neck go up. Trust your instincts. Super, super key. Trust your instincts. As police officers, we have to follow the law, right? But as just regular people out there every day, trust your instincts. It's telling you something. Safety at work. This can go even safety at your congregation, right? Whether it's a synagogue, a mosque, a church, whatever it is, right? These same rules apply. Everyone in this room, I'm assuming, recognizes everyone. You probably come every month to this, but let's be honest. Next month, all of a sudden, you start to see some different faces, and you're like, who is that person? I've never seen them before. That's okay. I'm not saying kick them out, but maybe engage them, right? Hey, how you doing? My name is so-and-so, Sean Riley. Who are you? I've never seen you before. Welcome. Maybe if they're legit, they're going to engage you. If they're not, they're going to feel a little uncomfortable and they're probably going to walk out. So again, that place is at work, but also here as well. All right. Try not to stay late in the office alone. Have coworkers walk you out. We talk about report lights that are out. Okay, this goes for even out and about in the community. If you see a traffic light out, or you see a light on the street out, reach out to the DPW and they'll get that, that fixed. Again, if you see signs of potential violence in your fellow employees, or maybe, on your Sabbath day, you see someone that they're just not acting the same all the time, don't be afraid to maybe engage and see what's going on. Maybe there's something, not right. Again, just, look at the signs and don't be afraid to address them when they're showing. I think that's important. Conduct security assessments within the building. I know you have folks here that's what they're doing all the time. We keep in touch with various temples here in the city. And that is something that ongoing all the time. We're all vulnerable. We're in our places of worship. As an Irish Catholic, we're in church, and you walk in the front door, but your back is to where the potential threat's going to probably come from, right? So we got to keep that in mind. When we're in our places of worship, we're very vulnerable. It's a lot of people, and we're not concentrating on that. So if we have folks that, hey, unfortunately, in today's day, we need to have people that are watching our back while we're worshiping wherever we are. Super, super important. And it's unfortunate that that's the case today, but that's just the reality we live in right now. Fall basic crime prevention principles. So this talks about at home. Don't be afraid to ask for photo ID. And I think it's on this slide maybe. Even ask a police officer. Everything I'm wearing can be bought online. And I could look like a police officer here in Framingham. So our officers are required, if they're asked for ID, to provide it, show it. Don't be afraid. If you have utility workers, ask for ID. And if you're just not sure, keep the door locked. Say, I'm going to make a phone call. And you can call us. We'll come up. I always say we would rather investigate suspicious activity and it be nothing than you let someone in and you become a victim of a crime. So again, super, super important. Installing alarms, proper lighting around your home, trim shrubs, right? I'm going to make fun of contractors here a little bit. Contractors will come in, they'll build all these beautiful houses, they'll put all sorts of greenery around them. But that shrub that's this big is going to be a giant years from now, right? And it's going to block your windows, and that creates hiding spots for people in and around your house. So keep that stuff trimmed. You want to be able to see out. That way there, they think they're being watched. All right. So lighting, make sure you keep your, areas around your house trimmed up. Again, give keys to maybe trusted neighbors. Walk with purpose. So this is one, I do a lot of elder safety presentations, and I always tell folks, if you walk with purpose, people tend to not mess with you. It's those, and we know where I'm going with this, right? If people walk maybe slouched, or they're not aware of their surroundings, but when you walk with purpose, people tend to not engage you as much. So again, I always tell people that walk like you own the place. I say that to my father. He can't walk too good anymore, but walk with purpose. That way you're less likely to be a victim. Keep purses close to your bodies, right? Sling them over your body. That way if someone tries to grab it, it's going to be a lot harder to get.
Men, we always tend to put our wallets in our back pocket. Maybe if you're in a very crowded area, throw it up at the front pocket. It's less likely you're going to get victimized there. Carry only the cash and credit cards you need. Everyone now, I don't have it, but phones has everything. Venmo. Someone said Venmo me. I don't have Venmo. Better lighted stops, public transportation, folks that maybe commute, it's starting to get darker now in the morning. If you're commuting out of the subway, you know what? Put yourself in a well-lit area. Put yourself where, the conductor may be if you're, traveling, say, in and out of this to the city. This is a troubling one over the last, probably decade plus, right? Know your neighbors. When we did a lot of community meetings when I was the housing liaison officer, and they were great. If there was one thing that happened, neighbors got to actually meet each other for the first time. And some of these folks lived right next to each other, and they didn't even know their neighbors. So I think that's super, super important. Know who lives around you. Report suspicious activity. Again, we get a lot of suspicious activity calls, and that's okay. I would rather go to a suspicious person or activity call and it be nothing. We had, and I'm going to do a quick story. Some of you may have heard this one. This was years ago, right across from the courthouse. There was a gentleman that worked up on Route 9. He left on his lunch break and he was just walking around the courthouse area. And neighbors, our investigation showed, saw him and they were like, yeah, he was really acting odd, very suspicious. And no one called. Kid got off the school bus and was assaulted by that guy. So again, not blaming those folks, because a lot of times people just don't want to get involved. And I get that. But if you see something that just doesn't fit your neighborhood, don't be afraid to call us. But be very specific as to what you're doing, because I'm going to add on to that. A lot of times we talk about, bias-based policing. Unfortunately for police officers, a lot of times we police based on other people's bias. There's a suspicious person in my neighborhood. Okay, what do they look like? What's suspicious about that? So again, very specific, because a lot of times, believe it or not, when we go, we're policing based off of someone else's bias, and that actually can be an impact for us. So just keep that in mind when you're calling. Be very specific as to what's going on. Elder scans, we talked about this. There's a lot out there, whether you're online, in the mail. Your bank is not going to call you. And again, I'm not going to go through each one of these slides. 65 and over, more likely to be a victim. Because the reality is, right, as we get older, what goes? Eyesight and hearing. It's a natural thing. It happens to 99% of people. And that's okay. But with that is they'll call and they'll get you on the hook so fast. They'll use certain terms. They know who they're calling. So just, again, be aware of that. A lot of these slides will say hang up. Remember, it isn't rude, it's shrewd. If you're not sure, hang up. Just hang up on people. If they are legitimate, they will get a hold of you in a legitimate way. It's not being rude. And we grew up. A lot of everyone in this room is part of the generations that grew up where you didn't want to be rude to somebody. But this is the time to be rude. It's not, it's not being rude. Just hang the phone up. Just hang up on somebody. Banks won't ask for personal information over the phone. Now, you may call your local credit union or your local bank, but you're not calling them. You're speaking to somebody. But they're not going to call you and ask for your personal information. Again, the prizes, give us $1,000 and we'll send you a check for $1 million.
The grandkids scam, where they're telling you your grandson is locked up in Mexico and he's going to stay there forever if you don't send $5,000 right now. Don't send it. And if you are unsure, call us. We'll reach out to the Mexican National Police or anywhere else to try to confirm it for you. They know, what strings to push and what to pull. And most people panic and they think about their grandson and they immediately send that money. Hang up. Again, if they tell you the world's ended, call us and we'll confirm it for you.
Again, don't feel the pressure on elder scams. I think that's really, really important. Tell them you want to discuss it with family members and I'll call you back. What's your name, your phone number? I'll call you.
I'll call you right back.
I'll call you.
They hang up on you then.
Yeah. Again, if you think they may be legit, say, obviously you have to know who I am. Don't give the information, but say, why don't you send me that in writing to my mailing address? Now, don't give them that, but trust me, they don't know who you are. So again, they're not going to send you anything legitimate. So just again, hang up on it. 1 in every 6 Americans have had their identity stolen or compromised. Is there anyone in this room, by a show of hands, that's had their identity compromised? I know I have. Yeah, there's a lot. It's probably pretty close just for this room. So that's a legitimate stat. This is what they're looking for. I think this is pretty obvious, right? Social security numbers, date of birth. And we're all, again, still the generations that, I still like to put stuff in the actual mail, right? And that's where they fish for it. That's where they're going to get a lot of information. I think my wife is one of the only people I know that still writes a check all the time.
This may seem minor. Do not throw your mail just in the trash. Get a $25 shredder on Amazon, shred your mail. Because there are people that will go through your trash and get every little bit of information. And something has your name on it, something has your address on it,
Yep.
One piece has your date of birth on it. Now they've got 2 or 3. And that's when they make the call and you give up your social security number. Now I have to trifecta. So don't think your trash is just going to the compost and somebody may not sift through it. There are people that will sift through your trash. They will fish your mail right out of the mailbox. Don't ever put your mail in a stationary mailbox on the corner of Main and High. You know what I mean? Go to the post office if you're going to mail something and drop it behind the wall. Do not put your mail in a box because they actually use a fishing tool and they just pull all the mail out of it. And it's called washing checks. They'll wash your check clean and write it out to themselves for an astronomical amount.
So just to state on that, the United States Postal Service is not changing the boxes now where it's very hard to fish it out, but they haven't changed all of them. It is in the slide. It's going to be in red somewhere. Invest in a shredder. The greatest thing you can do.
Having worked in the drug unit for many years, there was many times at 3 o'clock in the morning, I would go out and I would steal the trash off of the sidewalk of the drug dealers and have to go through it. And you'd be amazed. I knew what they ate, everything about them, because we throw a lot of personal stuff away in the trash. So just keep that in mind. There's a whole bunch of good stuff in there. Again, we all know theft in the home, mail, that's a big one, trash. Skimming, shoulder surfing, all of our ATMs are one piece. There's nothing separate on an ATM. So if you ever go into an ATM and the skimmer is flimsy and you can take it off, do not use that. Report that to the bank right away because ATMs are one whole unit. There's no separate pieces to them. Again, phishing and spyware, that's all on computers. So just make sure you have all your passwords saved. These are some of the trending scams. We're almost done, folks. Jurors, utility scams, social media. That's a big one now. Grandchildren arrested, gift cards where they tell you owe, $1,000. Go down to your local Target, buy $1,000 in cards, and then call us and they'll literally ask for all the numbers right off the back. Luckily, Target and those places are starting to catch on to this, and they'll question you when you go in there to buy large amounts of gift cards. One of our officers was actually, I believe, at a Target in Marlboro, Tim Mangano, I believe it was, and he was off duty, and he noticed what was going on. He actually stopped this person from being, taken advantage of. He went up to this, I think it was an elderly folk, went up, hey, what's going on? Identified himself and stopped the crime from happening. Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, get your free credit report and check that out. Any discrepancies, sign up for the alerts. Copy things. Invest in a safe for all your documents. One of the best places to keep some of your documents, if you can't afford a safe, is putting them in a big plastic bag and in your freezer. Because believe it or not, I've been to many fires throughout my career, and the refrigerator always survives. It's amazing. The outside will burn, but inside that freezer will stay intact. It's incredible. Invest in a shredder. The chief beat me to it, but it was right there. One of the best investments you can ever make. All of that, bank type stuff, shred it. There's no reason to keep it. And there's no reason to keep anything more than a year. Get rid of that. After you do your taxes, you can get rid of a lot of that stuff. There's no reason to keep it. You can get access to it. All right. All right, so any questions or comments? I know that was kind of lengthy, so I apologize.
What happened to the auxiliary police department?
Auxiliary police disbanded last July 1st. June, it was actually June of 2022. And that was as a result with all the post commission and the standards to be certified as a police officer, training. A lot of the auxiliary officers had certain trainings, they carried guns, they wore uniforms, and a lot of them couldn't do what they called the bridge school, the training, because there was nights and weekends and actually weeks where they would have to go to firearms or EVOC, which is driving school. And it just became such a hurdle to get over. And all the volunteers, they had full-time jobs elsewhere, and it just was impossible. And we knew we wouldn't be able to maintain that program just because of the demands of the training. So we kind of rethought out, okay, what can we do with these incredible volunteers that volunteered an amazing amount of hours to the city? So we came up with the community service volunteer program, and everyone except for maybe one or two stayed on board with us, which has been great. So now, if you've maybe seen them, they're wearing more of a khaki type pant, a green shirt, and they don't look like a police officer, but they're out there, at road races, concerts on the common, various other events we'll have them at to assist. So, that's what's happened to them. They're still volunteering. You won't see them in marked cruisers anymore. And they don't carry guns. So they're truly a volunteer organization. Do a lot of the same type of things at a little bit more scale. But, I can't thank those men and women throughout the years. There's a lot of volunteer hours.
Thank you both for coming this morning. It's been very interesting. One thing I want to comment on before I ask my real question is don't throw your information away for your tax return after 1 year. All right. You need to have at least 3 years and sometimes perhaps 7. So just keep that in mind. Or at least the stuff that relates to your tax return. The real question is, policing has certainly changed over the years. The old movies that they have, when you see the cop walking the beat, checking the doors of the stores and everything, the downtown areas, you don't see that anymore. But the real question I'm having is, how do you prepare new recruits and yourselves for all the additional services you're now performing, all the social-related services, and that aren't in the bailiwick of what one would think is policing?
That's a great question and something that we strive for. It starts by culture. In our police department, we've done a jail diversion program for 20 years, something that the country was crying for, but we've been doing it for 20 years. This is just one example where from the chief of police to the most junior officer embraces the fact that we have onboard clinicians working with us. And we take those clinicians to our calls, to all of our calls. They're embedded in the police department, and there's nobody that thinks any differently. Some of the tragic things that you see when, my brothers and sisters, police officers, do bad things, and it goes back to culture. It starts from within your organization. So we strive for excellence. We strive for professionalism, but your culture and training. From the moment we get you that you're going to come on to this job, we're embedding our culture into you. The world has changed. When I went to the academy, I was taught that everybody was going to try to kill me. Every encounter I have, somebody's going to try to kill you. They still give training to make sure you're able to protect your life and others, but they also teach you a lot of life skills. And what I tell a lot of our recruits is 1% of what you do is going to be that cool stuff you see on TV, the high-speed chase, the catching the bank robber, the jumping over fences, the foot chase. 99% of what you do is going to be talking to somebody, and you're going to probably be talking to somebody on their worst day. And you may have to spend a couple of hours with them just listening and just being compassionate. And that's what you're really going to do. And is this truly what you want to do? Because that's what you're going to be doing on a daily basis. And so it starts from the moment you get there. And we're taking it a step further. We're trying to instill this in the young men and women that go to our youth academy. We want to instill it in future cadets And we want to instill it as we segue you through the department. And we now have the backing of, there's numerous trainings out there, and the training that officers receive from the training council is more well-rounded now. We obviously have to teach tactics. We still have to respond to things like active shooters. We need the best trained officers in that aspect as well. And we also strive for that just as much, but it's an equal balance. Like I said, a two-pronged approach. And we start that from day one, and it's part of our culture.
I had a question more on just about what you're doing with regard to things like the Citizen Police Academy. You had 4 applicants, and people like myself are daily involved in government activities. How do we hear about things like that? I know, Mr. Mayor and First Lady, I'm sure, are very aware of it, but others who aren't part of the government, is there some social influencing that can be done to increase awareness of things like that?
I think trying to hit our demographics is definitely a challenge, right? So here we are, we use our Facebook, which is probably our biggest, hit for the police department, Twitter or X, whatever it's called today. We don't get as much, traction there as, I think we would have. But we've had discussions of maybe even setting up a YouTube type channel. A lot of people use YouTube. My son, who's a junior at Framingham State University, Dad, only old people use Facebook. We can't, and it's so true, right? But that's the generation we're trying to get at, and we're not on the platforms that they're on. All we do is YouTube, Instagram, so we need to start looking into that. Yeah, I don't know if we want to go there, but but that's where they are, right? So I think we need to find pathways. I mean, my son's never picked up a newspaper in his life, so I think we do need to find ways of getting word out there better.
And I also, for you, what would you like to see us put this stuff out at? That's the best question. And I'm not saying that sarcastically.
I'm the wrong target. Let me say the perfect chair. I don't do it.
Yeah, because I think speaking at an event like this, letting you know we're doing the Citizen Academy, that's part of it. I believe I'm going to the Callahan Center next month to have a conversation. Again, that's part of it. But that's my question. Where do you want to see us put this information out? We think we're doing the right thing by blasting it out on the city's website or social media, and obviously that's not enough. So maybe it's just pounding the ground, old school, and just putting the word out. But we're always open to suggestions. I always use the term "your police department." So if you feel there's something we can do better, let us know how we can do better.
Thank you for the talk. It was terrific. I was actually going to bring up the police academy. I've attended several, at least one of them. And I would suggest maybe one of the places for advertising that, Framingham Access TV scrolls it on the TV, I believe. So you could actually publicize it there. I also want to give a plug to the RAD program that Debbie now does. Starting this week, and I'm hoping, I've done it before, and I'm hoping that there will be some officers there that can help us to do more of the exercises, because that's really important. I hope the police department does really well, and we never need it. I've never had to use anything like that, but it's a great program, and I just wanted to mention it in case people don't know about it.
So
Rape, aggression, and defense.
Rape, aggression, and defense. It basically teaches you, as we talked about, the keys in your hands. I'm a proponent of this. Some people say, don't fight back. But if somebody's attacking you, fight back. It teaches you, techniques. And the biggest thing is it teaches you to vocalize. There's also a RAD Kids where there's a thing where you can set off. You can yell police. You can set off a car alarm, and nobody will turn their head. You yell fire, that's a different story. So you actually teach children to scream, "This isn't my father, this is not my mother." And the same thing that goes for, rape, aggression, defense. Scream, fight. If somebody tells you, be quiet, or I'm gonna kill you, that they want you to be quiet, put up a fight. There was recently something in the Wakefield, I believe it was last summer, where the woman put up a fight. And you actually couldn't see her, but she was screaming loud enough that a few people stopped and helped her. So I am not a proponent of just being quiet and going along. If you're put in a situation where you have to fight back, fight back. And that is a great source for teaching our techniques.
First of all, I want to thank the Framingham Police Department for saving a life in my house. My question, actually, it's a comment. I get calls frequently from a gentleman who starts off with a corny joke at which he laughs himself, and then announces that he's fundraising for the Policemen's Association. And I ask him always if he's a paid fundraiser. I was wondering if any of the money actually goes to the police departments, or is that a scam too?
99% of those, some of them are legitimate, but I wouldn't give to be perfectly honest with you. We have our local Framingham Police Association, and we do fundraise every once in a while. But we will usually post that and let people know that we are fundraising. And that money goes towards scholarships, etc., for the community. So unless you specifically hear Framingham Police Association, always ask and then call the police station, because our officers and dispatchers will be told if something's going on. Most of those organizations are not related to us at all, so I would just not give. And also, our police association does not target, obviously it's hard throughout the entire community, but those that do the fundraising for us, we don't allow them to call either like Framingham Housing Authority, elderly population, Hastings House, Memorial House, that type of stuff. We block those off.
One thing I'd like to thank the Framingham Police Department for. A few years ago, an elderly neighbor who was having mental problems was verbally and in writing assaulting me, and I called them because he said he wouldn't stop screaming at me, and they came and they talked to him. They talked to me. That was the end of the problem. And I'd like to know if there's an age limit. Upper age limit for the Citizens Academy.
No, you make number 5.
That sounds very interesting to me. Also, my grandson is a junior at Framingham State, and he's been taking the exams. So look for 12 handsome man. So, and thank you.
Recently, I noticed a story in Philadelphia where a social media influencer had a couple of hundred youth, as they say in Cousin Vinny, descend upon a bunch of retail stores downtown. When I think of Framingham, I think of the Route 9 corridor as a mecca of safe shopping. How prepared is your police force to deal with 200 youth coming in and looting those merchants?
I love that scene in that movie. Those who haven't seen it, it's a great movie. So yes, that is a big issue throughout the entire country. And I'll be honest with you, if we were to have something like that happen at one of our big box stores like a Target or a Walmart, we don't have enough officers working the shift to contain all of them all at once. It would be very difficult. You would probably have a few that get arrested, but that's when you have your video surveillance and everything else that's going to need to be heavily utilized. Depending on if they have cameras, maybe you can get license plates for cars. There'd be a lot of investigative work on the back end on something like that, unfortunately.
Hi there. First of all, I want to just say thank you for the times that I have needed to call the department. I always know that you're going to be there quickly and help. And so thank you. I have a comment and a question. The comment is what I see a lot of in your recruitment talking is about perhaps volunteer positions or positions that maybe don't need the academy training. And that might also be another way to get folks involved in knowing more about what the amazing work that you do. And even from a language standpoint, we certainly have folks in Framingham who are bilingual and trilingual, who could perhaps help. So that's my comment. And then my question, which you're welcome to respond to. My question has to do with reverse 911. So we live in the corner of Ashland South Road, Framingham, down the end of Salem End Road. And we've actually had more than one occasion where there's been a police chase through our yard. And where we were, or my neighbor was told to shelter in place, but because she stepped out right at the moment that the officers were running through. I'm just wondering if that's a situation where how quickly can reverse 911 be done? And then also, we didn't know when it was safe to come out of the house. So she texted all the neighbors and said, hey, don't go out right now. But yeah.
That actually came up recently in another, and I don't know specifically the one you're talking about here in Framingham, but there's something recently happened in one of the communities here in Massachusetts where the residents were asking about, and I draw a blank, where it was like a shelter in place and that communication. We need to get better at that. To be point blank, that, okay, we tell people to stay in place, but do we do the follow-up to say everything's safe now? So that's something that PIO, even if it's off hours, listen, the phone's never off. Call the station. I have access to our social media pages. If it requires maybe a reverse 911, maybe specific to that community, we need to do a better job at that for sure. Or maybe have the officers, after you're done with the scene, because that's what they're concentrating on at first. Maybe after it's go, we knock on top some doors and let people know it's okay.
Right. Thank you.
And as far as your comment, that goes to what I just said earlier. We love the feedback, and I think that's a great idea because we are structured to hire dispatchers, civilian staff. So maybe it's time to get some recruitment for them as well. So thank you for that.
Hi, I was a little disappointed with the response of the gentleman about these organized crime things, that we don't have enough police on. I was very upset because I'm thinking fires. There's a fire that the local fire company can't handle. They call in this company. They call in this company. They call in this company to help them. Do you guys, we're getting even state police around here, never mind other districts. Do you guys don't have anything set up? If a large thing like you saw in Philadelphia this weekend happens, that you're calling Natick, you're calling Sherburne, you're calling the state police to handle it. I think the answer is we don't have enough people on time at the time. It is completely very upsetting.
That's going to be a miscommunication. I'm going to speak for the deputy because I know what he was speaking about. What the deputy was referring to, if you had somebody that ran into Target right now for a 1-minute crime and grabbed everything they could and run out the door, the entire shift is going to respond and try to deal with that. The entire shift could be anywhere from 8 to 10 officers, even 15 officers, but that wouldn't be enough. Now I'm going to go back to when we had civil unrest back in 2018. We had very well confirmed intel that Shoppers World and Route 9 was going to be the subject of looting. If you were out at that time, and if you remember, Shoppers World looked like it was Fenway Park at a night game. We brought in light posts. We had, I want to say, approximately 60 troopers that were stationed at Shoppers World. We had half of our department stationed up and down Route 9. We brought in the Northeast NEMLAC community, which is the Northeast Police Departments that are engaged in the Northeast. They were stationed at Shoppers World, the Natick Mall. We probably had about 300 plus officers. So what you said is exactly what we do. If we need to push the button, all of our agencies, including our federal partners, were there as well, conducting surveillance. So that's all it's taking care of what the deputy is referring to. These crimes of opportunity where someone grabs a shopping cart and spends 1 minute in the Home Depot and takes a bunch of power tools and then runs out, you're going to get our best response. And our officers are going to do all they can. But actually, just going to get the share. We would then go to our state police partners, our federal partners, our plate readers, our surveillance cameras, reach out to you for your ring camera, and we're going to get plates, and we're going to try to hold everybody accountable. Even if it takes us 5 years to hold you accountable, we're going to try to hold you accountable. So I think that was just a miscommunication.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen.